Well, I tell you, this rear end is so narrow, it could be a supermodel from the 1980s.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
All right, welcome back. We're on the last episode, finally, part 3 of building this housing. And today we're going to get these housing ends on it. Now, the big question is, how do we come up with the number as far as how wide this needs to be? Well, let me show you the math. All right, as you can see here, I've already filled out the math, but this is basically how we got there. We know we have a 35 5/8 inch measurement from wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface. So we need to figure out where the axle itself needs to end up. Because there is going to be a brake rotor between the wheel and the axle mounting surface. So you slide the brake rotor on first and then your wheel goes on. So we have to accommodate that, or else it's going to push our rims a 1/4 inch out farther than we want, because a 1/4 inch is the thickness of this mounting surface on the brake rotor. So if we deduct a 1/4 inch twice, one for each side, that means we're going to take a 1/2 inch out of the overall width of this thing. And a 1/2 inch is 4/8, so that leaves us with 35 1/8. Right? Then we have to account for one more thing before we know how wide this has to be. And that is, we need to know where this mounting surface lands as far as how far it is from the housing end. And that's what's called brake spacing or brake offset, if you're talking to a manufacturer about this. And we have to make sure we have all this stuff calculated correctly, or our tires aren't going to sit where we want them. Now, the reason there's a brake offset is because you have components in here, right? So when we bolt these axles in, there's a retaining collar that goes here and bolts that go through it. So you have to leave room for that stuff. If you're mounting any kind of brake caliper brackets on there, you need to leave room for all those bolts and the brackets themselves. And if you're running a drum brake, then you've got all the wheel cylinders and everything else have to fit in behind this axle flange. So I could have made this very thin because we're running disc brakes. I don't need to leave room for all the brake drum stuff. However, if I do leave room for all the brake drums and whatnot, and I pick the right offset, I can buy off-the-shelf kits and I can switch to drum brakes later if I want to go with like a Willwood drag race drum setup or something like that, or any aftermarket Bear brake, CPP, any of the off-the-shelf brands. If I want to do an upgrade later with larger brakes or whatever, most of the kits out there fit a 2.5 inch brake spacing. So that means the distance between this axle mounting flange and the housing end is 2.5 inches, but we got to do it on both sides, which means there's 5 inches that we got to take out of the width of this housing. So if we take 35 inches away from 35 1/8, that gives us our total housing width of 30 1/8 inches, which is what we're building our housing to. All right, so figuring out where we need to cut our tubes in order to put these housing ends on is going to be much, much easier now that we know this thing is perfectly symmetrical. I've made sure these brackets are exactly the same distance to within a 32nd of an inch from the center of this housing. The same with the coilover brackets on the back. And I have center marks on the housing as well I can measure to. So we're going to take that 30 1/8 measurement, divide it by 2, come up with 15 1/16. We're going to go from the center, make our mark on both sides. Then we're going to measure from the ladder bars to that mark on each side, make sure that matches perfectly. From the coilover brackets to that mark on either side, make sure that matches perfectly. And then we're going to take an overall measurement and make sure that is correctly measured out to 30 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so now what we got to do is I've made a mark where the end of the housing needs to be, where the end of this needs to end up. But we have to account for that before we cut it off. And we have to cut it off perfectly right to make that end up where it needs to be. So we need to get a measurement off of this. What I'm going to do is make sure it's sitting flat. I'm going to grab this bad boy here. And I don't actually need to turn it on, but I'm going to go ahead and do it just so we can measure while we're at it. And I'm just going to go here and push that down till the bottom's out. We got 2.381. Let me double check the other one. Even though they should both be exactly the same, it never hurts to make sure, because that does not appear to be quite the same. Yeah, they're good. All right. We can take our little gauge here and set that on the mark I made, which is where the outside edge needs to be. And I can come in here and make a new mark right there. Okay, so we verified. I guess that means we challenged it to be the correct length. And it was. It was verified to be the correct location to make our cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that fancy piece of folder now. All right, so we did 4 layers of tape. I don't know if it's quite enough because this will get either painted or powder coated, hopefully powder coated at some point. And that's going to add thickness to this surface as well as a gasket or silicone. So it's not perfect, but it's probably closer than people who don't do that. So we're going to do it that way. Also made sure this whole surface was clean, on both surfaces here. So now we can put this in. They're always a pain in the butt, aren't they? There we go. Kind of got to get her started there. All right. All right, so we've got our fixture put back in. Now everything's tight. There's no play in anything. I've double checked my measurement and we are good from flange to flange. All right, so as you can see here, we've beveled it. We've also marked where to line that up. Not sure that got way off, but I must have bumped it. So that's how that's going to lay out. This does not, orientation is not that important. We're not using aftermarket brakes. We're going to make our own brackets. So these things could literally be positioned anywhere I want them. But we're going to go with the normal front to back situation like it is there. So got our bevels ground. We're going to be able to get in there. I don't know if I'm going to do a root pass or try and nail it all in one shot. I think I'll tack it down and then I'll decide. All right, so now I've got these ends tacked on. I didn't show you all that because honestly, I had this out 4 times, this whole fixture, in and out several times, verifying squareness, verifying width. It ended up being a 1/16 of an inch too wide on one side, so I took the end back off, ground it down another 1/16 of an inch, put it back on, got everything lined up again. So it's been a process getting to this point, but now we're at a point where they're tacked on, and all I got to do now is weld them and hope they don't move. So here it is. We've done a nasty little root pass, let's call it. I did everything in stitches. Trying not to make it warp any direction. So I did my first stitch on one side, then the other, then I did these 4, and then I just went around and filled it. But anyway, we're getting there. The welding's not fantastic, but I think we have it structurally sound. So now all I got to do is go over and lay a full pass of, we're going to stack boogers. That's what we're going to do. We're going to be laying boogers. So we did it. We got this thing put together, and I returned the fixture to my friend. I only had it for like 9 or 10 months. I'm not putting as much time into making this video as I did in the other 2. And that's because we're going out of town for a couple of weeks, and we're leaving tomorrow. And that doesn't leave me much time to get this edited, uploaded, titled, and put up online. So I'm sacrificing a little bit of quality of the video in order to make sure I get it out on time. There's no way I'm going out of town for 2 weeks and leaving you guys hanging. So thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves.